Applicants must be 18 years old or older and CPR
Okay.
certified. Contact April. The Holiday Marketplace. It's their final day to shop. Stop by Whitcomb Hall after the service. Christmas Eve dinner, December 24th at 4 o'clock. We would love to have volunteers to come and eat with us. And if you're able to bring a donation of a casserole or a sweet treat, we are celebrating with our guests from Chaplains on the Way. So please come join us. If you have any questions, talk to me. Thank you to the First Parish community for your generous fall donations to Chaplains on the Way. Many items have already been shared with our unhoused neighbors. Please view their current needs in the newsletter. We are deeply grateful for your continued support. And the last announcement, after coffee hour, when you're exiting the building, please exit the door near the office. This one gets locked pretty quickly after the service. This is the end of today's announcements. Please check that you have silenced your phone and other communication devices. And now, please turn around to the lovely people on Zoom and give them a wave. Thank you.
In the season of long, cold nights, hope isn't waiting for us to find it. Hope isn't sitting patiently on the sidelines. No. Hope seeks out the forgotten places, the longest night, the damaged temple, the overcrowded stable, and every corner where tomorrow seems impossible. Hope bursts in uninvited, without concern for our carefully crafted plans. Hope shows up as a lamp that keeps burning. Hope shows up as an important baby. Hope shows up as the sun returning without actually having ever left us. Hope shows up as tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow again. Until, against all odds, we feel the future breaking on the horizon. When we are weary from battle, when empire seems inevitable, when darkness is growing all around us, hope comes to claim us, and we have a chance to say yes. Good morning, everybody. And welcome to First Parish Waltham, a UU congregation where all are welcome. My name is April Rosario. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a Black woman in my late 30s with shoulder-length dreadlocks. And I am so blessed to be the director of Faith Formation here. And I am equally so glad to be with all of you today. I'm glad because Sunday mornings are a special time, a time when we gather to live out our dreams, to help one another, and to be part of something greater than ourselves. Because together, we find strength and meaning and love to help guide us in all that we do. So friends, both in the sanctuary and at home, I invite you to take a breath and settle into this sacred time and space, as we are joined by Dimitri, a member of our Committee on Ministry, who will light this morning's chalice and the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition.
Hi, everyone. As we gather together for worship this morning, being both near and far, some very far, we light our chalice as we do each week. It is a symbol of our faith. A single candle flame in a dark space illuminates a person in a silhouette. May its light be a beacon of hope for the many, those who feel lost, those who feel threatened, those who feel tired, those who are uncertain. May our beacon of hope help you find home, help you feel safe, give you respite, and honor your searching mind and spirit.
This morning marks the fourth and final Sunday in the season of Advent, which anticipates the birth of Jesus on Christmas Day. Each candle offers a symbol: hope, peace, joy, and on this fourth week, love. As the wheel of the seasons turn and we are brought closer and closer to the sun, we are reminded of how love is the source of compassion and warmth. Love animates our days, informs our decisions, and quickens our hearts. This fourth Advent candle represents all we hold dear: our precious memories, our caring for one another, and our beautiful planet that sustains us. Love knows us, holds us, and nurtures us. May love find this Advent season as we rest here for a moment, take in the stillness, and be present to ourselves and those around us. We light this candle of love. May I introduce our next hymn?
Sure.
Because I like to do that stuff. Would you all please join us in singing our first hymn this morning, number 123, Spirit of Life, in your gray hymnal. Number 123, Spirit of Life.
Before we're all seated again, I would like to invite you to join me in our unison affirmation. And we have been working on this, friends. So, we know that not every word resonates with everyone, but I would like you to call out the words that do resonate with you with compassion, with a spirit of life. You can find the words for our unison affirmation in your order of service or on your screen, and they begin with the word love. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. I have a special story to tell you today. It is one of my favorites. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a foreshadow into our second service today, which is our solstice service that will be in Whitcomb Hall at 4. This is the tale of the holly and the oak king. And we can start it, as all great stories do, with Once upon a time, in the time before clocks and calendars, 2 brothers ruled the turning of the year. The Oak King commanded the season of growth. His strength peaked when the sun blazed the longest, and crops stood thick and tall and robust in the fields. The Holly King, on the other hand, held dominion over the season of rest. His power crested when night stretched deepest and the earth lay dormant under snow. They had battled this balance since the beginning of time. Neither good nor evil, but both undeniably necessary. At each solstice, one would yield to the other in an ancient ritual as reliable as the sunrise. But this particular winter, of this particular story, as the Holly King approached the height of his reign, something changed. The people shivering in their homes began to curse the cold. Why, they asked, must we endure such hardships? They complained, can't summer just last forever? The Oak King, sleeping deep beneath the earth, as he always did during his brother's rule, heard these cries. And for the first time in eons, he began to question the old ways. Perhaps they're right, he said. Perhaps I should refuse to yield come summer solstice. I could spare their suffering. When the winter solstice arrived and the Holly King came to pass down the crown, the Oak King was nowhere to be found. The Holly King searched the frozen forests, finally discovering his brother, hidden deep in a cave underground. It is time, the Holly King simply said. No, the Oak King replied. I have seen what winter does to them. I won't put them through another one. The Holly King studied his brother's eyes like December morning. Brother, what do you think will happen if summer never ends? Well, they'll be happy, of course. Warm, fed, rejoicing. Obviously. For how long? The Holly King asked. Said his brother. What happens if the soil never gets to rest? The seeds that need it never experience the cold. To the people who never learn to appreciate what they have, brother, what will happen? The Oak King quickly turned away. I don't care. I choose hope. I choose to believe that there's a better way than suffering. Oh, brother, then you choose poorly, said the Holly King. Not unkindly, though. That's not hope. That's the fear of necessary things. For 3 years, the Oak King held on to summer. And at first, the people celebrated. They were warm, they were fed, they were jolly. But gradually, the endless heat became a curse. Wells ran dry. Crops, exhausted from constant growing, began to fail. The once rich, healthy, deep soil turned to dust that blew away in the wind. Animals collapsed from the heat they couldn't escape. People began to gather in the town square, but not to celebrate the way the Oak King thought they would, but to demand answers. "Where is winter?" they cried. "We need the rains, we need the rest." An old woman stood on a stone and spoke what the others feared. "We were fools to curse the cold. Yes, winter brings the snows, but those snows become our spring rains. Winter gives earth time to gather strength. Winter reminds us to appreciate warmth when it returns." The Oak King watched from his endless summer throne and saw the wisdom in her words. But pride kept him silent. It wasn't until tragedy struck a child for the first time that the Oak King finally understood. Hope wasn't about avoiding difficulty. It was about trusting that difficulty had meaning, that darkness served light, that endings made space for beginnings. He walked into the palace where the Holly King waited, patient as winter itself. Head hung, he said, "I was wrong. I thought hope meant preventing hardship, but real hope means trusting the whole cycle, even the hard parts." The Holly King nodded. Hope isn't the belief that things will always be easy. It's the conviction that difficult things have purpose too. And so, together, they performed the ancient exchange of powers, and winter finally came. The people who had learned to appreciate what they had once cursed welcomed the cold, as they would welcome rain after a drought. And the circle began again, as it always had since the beginning of time. And not because it was comfortable, but because it was necessary. Because sometimes choosing hope means choosing what is necessary rather than what may seem pleasant in the moment. Because wisdom lies not in avoiding the winter, but in trusting that winter leads to spring. Now, normally, this is where I give you a challenge. I'm still going to give you one, but it's a little different. Your challenge is to find your way back this afternoon, be it in person or on Zoom, to dive deeper into all we can learn from the turning of the year and the winter solstice. Now, in just a second, I'm going to invite you to stand to sing our second hymn. But before I do, I want to give you a little bit of background, and I want to ask you a question. How many of you have ever heard the song "Deck the Halls" as part of a Christmas playlist? Me too. How many of you may have at some point in your lifetime assumed that "Deck the Halls" was a Christmas song? Me too. It, in fact, is not. "Deck the Halls" is much older than Christmas as we know it. Its roots are, in fact, pagan. And its theology is the turning of the wheel. The melody comes from a traditional Welsh song, which I have practiced and still can't say it. If anyone would like to know, find me after the service and I'll show you the paper. And and it is sung in celebration at the turning of the year. This was music for the solstice. That's what it was created for, to celebrate the longest night, from the moment when darkness is at its height and the world waits for light to return. So as we sing it today, I invite you to sing it in a way that honors its roots. When you deck the halls, when you are jolly, think about what is coming, not what winter you may be stuck in. So as you rise in body or spirit, I invite you to do so remembering to not push past the winter, but to root yourself in it, like the people in the old stories who were lifting their voices and keeping hope alive. Please join us in singing number 235, 235, Deck the Halls with Boughs of Holly, in the Gray Hymnal. Please be seated, and youth, you can go.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Plum Kennard. I use she, her pronouns, white 76, and here we're going to do joys and concerns, and we're here together, and the first word of our covenant is love. And when you come up and share your joys and concerns, we're able to hold you in our hearts. So if you have anything to say, come on up and light a candle, and then scooch over to me, and I'll pass you the mic. I guess that's it. And Pam's going to light one more candle for all of the unspoken joys and concerns that we just can't say aloud. Thank you. Thank you, Pam.
I'd like to invite everyone to take a breath, a deep, deliberate breath, and settle into this moment together. If it feels good for you, gently place your feet on the floor and feel the support beneath you, as well as the metaphorical support around you. Allow your shoulders to soften. If it feels comfortable, let your eyes close, or simply shift and rest your gaze on something that feels gentle. And continue to take slow, deep, intentional, deliberate breaths, breathing in and then letting it go. Breathing in and letting it go. In this season of longer nights, when the world feels uncertain and unsteady, let us pause here, not to escape what is hard, but to meet it with care. Notice your breathing, steady, faithful. Even when we're not thinking about it, our breath keeps showing up for us. Let it be a reminder that there are quiet forces of life and love still at work within and around you. Now bring your mind to something that feels heavy. A worry, a grief, a question without an answer. Please know I'm not asking you to solve it, just to acknowledge it. And as you acknowledge it, I invite you to imagine setting it down beside you. No, it's not gone, but it's no longer carried alone. Hope in this moment does not ask us to be certain. It does not require cheerfulness or easy answers. Hope simply asks us to stay, to remain open to the possibility that light can return, that healing can grow, that love is still at work. Now I invite you to picture a small light, a candle flame, a star, a dawn at its very beginning. Not overwhelming, but steady. This light represents hope as a choice. The choice to keep caring, the choice to keep reaching, the choice to keep believing that your actions matter, that our actions collectively matter. With each breath in, imagine that light growing just a little stronger. And with each breath out, let it spread into your body, into your relationships, into your community, and into the wider world that longs for repair. If you feel weary, let hope be gentle. If you feel uncertain, let hope be patient. If you feel ready, let hope move you toward compassion and courage. And as you bring yourself back to this time and space, wiggle your toes, start to open your eyes. As you leave this moment of prayer and meditation, may you leave it remembering that faith is not always knowing. Sometimes it is simply showing up again for one another, for justice, for love, for the fragile, resilient world that we share. I invite you to take one more deep breath in. Slowly release it. And know that you are loved. Those of you that have been around for a little while will know that I wear lots of hats, but I'm a storyteller at heart. And as you're quickly going to realize, today's service is grounded in story. First, we had our wisdom tale. Our last story will be one that opens my sermon. But this story, the one that's going to start our invitation to generosity, is actually about me. A few years ago, almost 14 to be exact, When my husband and I found out that we were about to be parents for the first time, everything felt really uncertain. The path ahead was blurry, and the questions felt louder than the answers did. And there was a particular day that came to mind as I was preparing for today's service. It was a particular day. It was winter. Our oldest was born in January, so I was incredibly large and incredibly uncomfortable, and I was in the grocery store. In winter, it was a miserable day outside, weather-wise, and I was standing in line, staring at my cart, doing the mental math. And I'm sure all of us have been in a grocery store where we're doing mental math. And the question, the really conscious question was, do I have enough? But when I reflect back on it, it wasn't just, do I have enough in the cart to get me through the week, because I really don't want to have to come back to the grocery store. It was a lot deeper than that. It was, do I have enough of everything? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough energy? Do I have enough food? Do I have enough hope? Do I have enough of everything? And I started to really kind of spin out about that. And then I noticed something as I was stuck in my own head and my own worry and my own question of, do I have enough? The person in front of me was fumbling. They were fumbling with their wallet, and they were quickly apologizing to the cashier, and they were clearly embarrassed. And without really thinking, I stepped forward and I offered to help. And they said, I'm just a couple dollars short. And I said, well, I have a couple dollars. And it wasn't a grand gesture. They only had a couple things on their cart. It was something small. And I knew it didn't fix whatever they were going through. But something shifted in that moment. And what shifted actually had nothing to do with them. It had to do with me. For a moment, all of the fear and the worry that I had about my own life, right, that question, do I have enough, started to loosen its grip. And in that moment, the world felt a little bit more connected, and everything felt a little bit more possible. And I realized a lesson that I have kept with me from that moment. That's the power of generosity. It doesn't require abundance. It just requires presence. So, in the times when things can feel a little unsteady, I wonder what would happen if we grounded ourselves in generosity as an act of hope, as a way of saying, I believe we're not alone. I believe that what we do together matters. Each week, here at First Parish, we have an offertory. And I know there's mixed feelings about that. Some people don't know why we do it. Some people don't like that we do it. And that's okay. But for me, it's a reminder. It's something we do together. It is ritual. It is practice. And it's a reminder that when we give, right, not of abundance, but when we give of what we have, whether that be our money, our time, our care, we are choosing an act of hope. We are choosing faith over fear. We are choosing to invest in community, in justice, in the quiet, persistent work of love that happens here week after week after week. I invite you to think about today's offering as an act of hope that supports shared ministry, that supports this place, this community, this congregation, where we practice hope together, where we show up for each other, be in and beyond these walls. As we are joined by our choir in just a second, I invite you to give as generously as you can, knowing it is gratefully given and gratefully received. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Susan Knapp, and I am a 70-something white woman wearing a green sweater and green pants. Today's reading is The Gates of Hope by the Reverend Victoria Safford. Our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, not the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, nor the strident gates of self-righteousness, which creak on shrill and angry hinges. People cannot hear us there. They cannot pass through. Nor the cheerful, flimsy garden gate of everything is going to be all right. But a different, sometimes lonely place, the place of truth-telling about your own soul first and all of its condition, the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be, as it will be. The place from which you glimpse not only struggle, but the joy of the struggle. And we stand there beckoning and calling, telling people what we are seeing, asking people what they see.
So, I mentioned that I am a storyteller at heart. So we're going to start with the third story of today. Why? Because I heard it a little while ago, and it's really just too good not to share. It goes like this. Once upon a time, two frogs were hopping along, minding their business, going throughout their day, as frogs do. And they hopped straight into trouble. They hopped directly into a bucket filled with cream. The sides were too slippery to climb, and the bucket was too deep to jump out. Frog number one immediately began to panic. "We'll never get out, we're doomed!" The other frog didn't say much at first, just started treading cream. Frog two, the one that's treading, looks around, takes in the situation, and then starts to swim the backstroke around the bucket, gently paddling just enough to stay afloat. Around and around and around frog two swims, all while frog number one is going, "We're doomed, we're doomed, we're doomed!" Around and around and around frog two goes. And on frog two's 20th lap, yeah, it's a small bucket, he starts to take in the situation a little more. And as frog one is still going, "We're doomed, we're doomed, we're doomed," frog two starts to fill in the gap where frog one is taking a breath and going, "Keep hope alive, keep hope alive, keep hope alive." And they end up with this chorus of, "We're doomed, keep hope alive, we're doomed, keep hope alive," around and around and around. And as frog two is swimming, he urges frog number one to do the same. Eventually, frog number one joins in. And they're swimming in circles, legs moving, voices croaking. We eventually move from "We're doomed, keep hope alive, we're doomed, keep hope alive," to "Keep hope alive, keep hope alive, keep hope alive, keep hope alive," both of them. They do this for some time, while frog one says, "Just give me a minute to think, we'll figure it out." What they don't realize is happening after lap 20 and lap 30 and lap 40 and lap 50 is that the cream has started to thicken. They're making butter. And eventually they've made so much butter that they are no longer in a liquid, but they have something to climb up on and climb out of the butter. They do. They hop out. They go their separate ways. And as they go, you can hear them croaking, "We kept hope alive, we kept hope alive, we kept hope alive." I really like this story. And I wanted to share it with you. Because this story isn't about believing in really hard. The frogs don't escape because they feel hopeful. They escape because they act, because they keep moving. Not necessarily knowing that their moving will work. At the beginning, not even realizing that their moving is doing something. This is the kind of hope that I want to talk about today. This type of hope that's not a feeling, but is an act, a choice, for some an act of faith. The author, Joanna Macy, gives us language for this kind of hope. She calls it active hope. And she reminds us this: active hope is a practice, like Tai Chi or gardening. It's something we do rather than something we have. Active hope begins with seeing reality clearly, telling the truth about the bucket we're in, so to speak. And then it asks us to name what we hope for. Not predictions, but values. What kind of world do we long for? What do we want to see expressed? How do we want to show up? How do we want to be remembered? And then she says, we take steps, choices, actions, however small, to move ourselves and our situation in that direction. Active hope doesn't require optimism. We don't wait until we are sure of success. We don't limit ourselves to outcomes that seem likely. Instead, we focus on intention, on what we deeply long for, and then let it guide us. Remember, the frogs didn't know they were making butter. They just kept moving. Frog 2 just kept encouraging Frog 1. They just kept showing up for the moment that they were in. Kind of like all of you. You keep showing up. Sunday after Sunday, or Sunday, skip a couple Sundays and Sunday, whatever life allows. But you show up. That's a choice. That's an act of hope, an act of faith. Because if we're honest, many of us arrive at this place not by accident. It was a choice to come to church. And when we come, sometimes we come with questions in our minds. Sometimes they're questions like the one I had standing in line at the grocery store 14 years ago. Sometimes it's the question of what's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, sometimes those questions play for us on repeat, and we grasp at signs and markers, news articles, analysis, social media posts. We grasp at them as if they are a new zodiac, capable of forecasting what lies ahead. As if we could prepare for everything and anything that might come our way. As if somewhere we got the message that life promised to always make sense. And then we're shocked when it doesn't always turn out quite like we imagined it would. We make the choice to act and to show up. We gather, even with those questions swimming in our minds. And when we gather, whether it be for an hour on Sunday morning or several hours at a game night or at someone's house, or at book group, or at choir, or at adult faith formation, or over Zoom, or for coffee with a friend on a random Tuesday. When we gather not to answer every question, but to release ourselves from the exhaustion of needing to know, and the exhaustion of doing life alone. We gather to set down the burden of believing that we either have to have all the control or the fear that we have none at all. In song and silence, in story and reflection, in games, in coffee, in tea, in books, on Zoom, we gather to make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. We gather as an act of hope. Our reading today was Standing at the Gates of Hope. It's a poem by a contemporary Unitarian Universalist minister named Victoria Stanford. And in it, she offers what is, I think, one of the most compelling theological versions of choosing hope. She distinguishes hope from optimism, from common sense, from self-righteousness, and from false reassurance. Instead, she describes hope as a different, sometimes lonely place, which takes some diving into, because I don't think that's what we all imagine when we think about hope. She describes it as the place of truth-telling about your own soul and all its conditions, the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which we see both the world as it is and as it could be. I was fascinated by this poem when I first saw it and did some research on it because that's what I do. And what I realized is her theological understanding of hope grew out of witnessing a friend's struggle. Her friend happened to be a practicing psychiatrist who had a patient, a young patient, a student, who had recently committed suicide. And when she asked her friend how he continued to do work, his work specifically, how he continued to show up, this was his answer. All I can do is what I am called to do, and is to plant myself at the gates of hope. Sometimes they come in, sometimes they walk by, but I stand there every day, and I call out until my lungs are sore from calling. That is what Reverend Victoria Stanford based her poem on. This version of hope is not an emotion, it is a vocation. It's a daily practice of standing, calling, and beckoning without any guarantees. And I think that is where faith lives for some of us. Not in the certainty, but in the commitment. Not in the knowing of how things will turn out, but in the choosing of how we will show up again and again and again. Reverend Stanford's poem reminds us that Unitarian Universalist theology continues a long tradition, choosing hope as active engagement with both beauty and brokenness, refusing the comfortable alternatives of denial and despair. Earlier, I told a story older than clocks and calendars, the story of the Oak King and the Holly King. Two brothers, two seasons, neither good nor evil, both necessary. That's how that story started. It took real loss for the Oak King to understand what the Holly King had been trying to teach all along, that hope is not a refusal of darkness. Hope is trusting the whole cycle. Hope is believing that even when things are hard, there is purpose. Then I told you stories about me, and a moment of hard, and what being in community, even for a brief second, did to change my understanding. And then I just told you a story about frogs and cream and butter, and the idea of keeping hope alive. We talked about Joanna Macy and her understanding of this type of hope, labeling it active hope. And we heard a reading from Victoria Stanford, who challenges us, dares us almost, to see hope as a way of calling out day after day without guarantees. Unitarian Universalism names all of these things as faith, knowing that every single one of you will interpret that word differently. Faith is not certainty about outcomes. Faith is fidelity to the work. Faith is choosing to show up even when the season is hard. When we gather, when we sing, when we share stories, when we pray, when we meditate, when we sit in silence, we are the frogs turning the cream into butter. We are creating something solid enough to stand on, not alone, but together. This faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism, offers hope as both a spiritual practice and a social responsibility, grounded in honest assessment of reality, yet committed to transformation. So here is my second challenge of the day for you. If today you feel tired, uncertain, or afraid, if you find yourself weary of the cold, personal or collective, if hope feels like more effort than emotion, remind yourself of this. Know this in your bones. You are not doing it wrong. Hope is not something we wait for. Hope is something we practice. May we keep hope alive. May you honor the season you are in. May you move your legs. May you stand at the gate. May you call out what you see. May you take the next faithful step. May you turn your cream into butter. This is the act of faith we claim today, that a new world is possible, not because we avoid the darkness, but because we trust that even now, even here, something necessary is taking shape, and we are a part of it. May it be so. I invite you now to please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able, and join us in our closing hymn, number 300, with Heart and Mind, found in the gray hymnal and on your screen. May the light we have kindled here continue to guide us through uncertain paths and long nights, reminding us that even a small flame can push back the dark. And as you go from this place, may you carry hope not as certainty but as practice. May you trust that your presence matters, your love makes a difference, and your actions, however small, help heal the world. When the way forward feels unclear, may you choose compassion over fear, connection over isolation, and faith in the quiet return of light. May you go in peace, may you go in courage, and may you go knowing you are never alone. Blessed be.